What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the battle between PlayStation and Xbox. Sony and Microsoft have been locked in a very vicious court case for the last year about the future of the Activision Blizzard deal. But now, Microsoft is starting to fight dirty. They have demanded that Sony reveal a lot of their darkest secrets, and now they have won that fight. Apparently, Sony is going to have to talk about how much they are paying for all their exclusives. And this might be very, very juicy to see who's been secretly taking those PlayStation paychecks. But I want to take a look at their court rulings because honestly, it's kind of interesting to me. Hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be honest, I had a very long, very painful trip to the dentist today and I still can't really feel anything. So if I'm talking a bit funny, I am wearing my sleeping clothes. I'm gonna barely edit this video as well because I am so loopy right now. But here's what's going on. The FTC has denied Sony's motion in order to company-produced documents. Okay, so basically what happened is that Microsoft said, okay, if you want to claim that Activision Blizzard, us buying them, is bad for business, let's talk business. How much have you been paying people to not have games on Game Pass? Because that's apparently what's been going on. There has been a big open secret for the last couple of years that apparently people, if you're making a big AAA game and Microsoft is thinking about buying the rights to put it on Game Pass, but it's still sellable on PlayStation, in certain circumstances, it sounds like Sony paid those developers just to not put it on Game Pass. Not even to put it on PlayStation Now or PlayStation Plus. Sony paid developers to not put games on Game Pass, which is a pretty strong accusation. But when this got originally thrown out in court, Sony fought very, very, very hard to make it where they would not have to show that information. This is actually, they published a 35-point document about why specifically they consider the fact that this is not allowed, why this is, a breach of contract. They shouldn't have to talk about their secret financials. Well, apparently Microsoft won. The motion is granted and denied in part. Now, basically what this means, Sony is going to have to show all of their exclusivity contracts from 2019 to present. So basically, the entire current generation. Because keep in mind, obviously the PlayStation 5 came out 2020. A lot of these games started going into development around then. I think we're going to discover a lot of people took that Sony paycheck. And I mean, honestly, I can't even really blame them. I'm more curious, though, about certain stuff involving games like Final Fantasy, because as it currently exists, there has never been any public disclosure about why Final Fantasy is only on PlayStation. There was a bunch of leaks a while back that they wanted to put Final Fantasy VII Remake on the Xbox Series X and Series S, but obviously it never materialized. And the thought was that maybe that was still when the contract was up in the air, when there was still some discussions at least about the idea of, more Square Enix games going to Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PlayStation. It seems like Sony has been paying big buckets, like millions and millions of dollars, for people to just not put their games on Xbox, which again is just insane to think about. Now, I do think parts of this are going to be heavily redacted. This is what's called a public motion filing. So you can see all this stuff here says public on each and every page. This means that legally we're allowed to look at this. Now, a lot of times court documents, when they have stuff that's super top secret, like specific numbers or, mergers, phone numbers, stuff like that, obviously they put like a big blackout thing on it. I think the final court documents are probably gonna be pretty blacked out when it comes to like who got a $50 million paycheck. But I am kind of just curious to see, what if there's hundreds and hundreds of studios that took the Sony paycheck not to be on Xbox? I think it would be an interesting case that, you know, PlayStation, even if they're not buying up as many studios as Microsoft is, they're definitely still spending that cash. Now, part of the reason that I feel like a lot of people are interested in this is that Phil Spencer has lately been talking about the idea of Starfield and exclusivity. Specifically, the reason people are talking about Starfield is because right now there is a bunch of debate as to whether or not eventually Call of Duty is going to be exclusive to Xbox in like 10 years. Will that actually happen? Not just on Game Pass, will it only be buyable on an Xbox console? Phil Spencer said a strange statement in an interview just yesterday where he said, "We're going to treat Call of Duty like we do any Bethesda game. The stuff that exists on other platforms will continue to update it." Now, people have been bringing that up because Starfield originally was going to be on PlayStation 5. A lot of the developers, Pete Hines, one of the main guys at Bethesda, straight up said, yeah, we were going to make Starfield on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and then we got bought by Microsoft, so now it's just an Xbox Series X game. So people are starting to think, is this some weird flip-floppy Phil Spencer terminology? I don't think it is. I do think he's being, you know, pretty sincere. Like, a lot of people keep calling Phil Spencer a liar. I don't think he's lying. I think that Phil Spencer is a guy who, obviously he is paid tens of millions of dollars to make sure that Xboxes keep selling, but I think he's just flip-floppy with his terms sometimes by accident, just to give him a bit of extra credit. Going back to this though, man, I am going to be extremely fascinated if it turns out that certain companies we assumed were being paid aren't. Like, what if it comes out when they actually expose these financials? What if it turns out that Square Enix isn't putting games on Xbox simply because they don't want to? What do we do if it turns out that other companies have been taking a big-ass paycheck? What if Call of Duty, I mean, if we're looking at raw numbers, Call of Duty has been paid a lot for exclusive marketing rights. I'm kind of curious to see if it turns out that PlayStation has been paying tens of millions of dollars to get that billions of dollars of extra COD cash. It's going to be a juicy week when this information starts coming out. But I love you guys very much. I am in a lot of pain right now. My mouth hurts really bad. I vomited on my dentist. I'm so embarrassed. Most embarrassing moment of my life. My dentist bumped my gag reflex and I vomited all over the office. Literally the worst moment of my life. Okay. Video games. I'm going to edit this. I love you guys very much. Please like the video and subscribe and keep dreaming. I'm so tired. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.